My name is Ruth Stafford. Richard Small is my brother. I went to England in 1966 to study nursing at St. Giles Hospital. This is where I met my dear friend. Her name is Thelma Campbell, but we call her Jem. She got this name from her father. Her father thought she was a gem. And when Richard told me he was going back to Jamaica, having studied law in England, I said to him that my friend Jem went home to Jamaica. It so happened that both of them decided to go back by boat. And Richard thought this was a great idea because he had some books which he knew that when he arrived in Jamaica, that the government at the time were confiscating books that had anything at all to do with Black power or Black consciousness. And so he said, do you think that Jem would be willing to take some books written by Walter Rodney to Jamaica? And Jem willingly said yes.
Agreed.
Okay, go ahead.
Actually, the books wouldn't have been ready when I left.
Okay, so that was...
In May of '69.
Okay.
But we were working on producing them because I've already given the account of how that took place. Walter had handed me the manuscripts of his speeches when we went to the Black Writers Conference in October of '68 and asked me to see if we could get them published by a group of us that he knew about in London. And that's why I'd taken them from Montreal, taking the speeches from Montreal to London. And so we were working on getting them published, but they weren't ready for publication when I left. But I obviously was anticipating the problem of getting the books into Jamaica and must have asked you. I'm quite frankly don't have a recollection of asking you, but I accept your word that I did.
I don't know who asked me.
Yeah.
My name is Thelma Campbell, commonly known as Jem. As Ruth previously said, we were in nursing school together. I went there from 1965 and returned to Jamaica in 1970. I knew Richard and Ruth very well, and I don't know who asked me, but I was asked if I would take some copies of Walter Rodney's book. The title was Groundings With My Brothers, and I said certainly. And really, I didn't know much about the political scene, so I just said certainly I'll do that. I can't remember how many copies I did take, but I did. I packed them in my suitcase, and I think I left in July of 1970. It took me 3 weeks to get home, but I wasn't searched or anything when I arrived here, and that's how the books got to be in Jamaica. I handed them to Richard when I got Was it you? Yeah, must have been.
I did the distribution to the university, bookshop, to sangsters, sold some ourselves. I was involved with ITAC, Independent Trade Union Action Council on Wildman Street. Some would have been sold there. And in political work, you'd find outlets.
Do you remember how many copies were printed?
I still do not even recall. I must confess, I don't even recall Jem bringing in.
I remember, but I don't remember how many
completely accept
copies.
that she did.
I don't remember how many copies though.
And of course, the context for the concern really was the government's.
Oh yes, they were tight, and particularly at that time too, the agitation would have been going on. Abeng was still active. They had stopped publishing the weekly paper, but there was an Abeng group of which I was a part, which was working on trying to revive the publication, but it was also a political group, and we were closely associated with ITAC. Very closely associated. So for instance, Wes Van Riel, who I've seen that you have interviewed, it was at ITAC that I met Wes. he would have been involved in the political work, not only of Abeng, but of around ITAC. The first edition sold out, and whatever Jem brought would have sold out, and we'd have had to get other
Couriers.
couriers, yeah.
But you don't remember persuading any other Ruth. You don't remember who else brought copies.
No, it would have been unusual because most people would have come by air, and you know that luggage is limited there.
Yeah.
When you go on a ship or a boat, you don't really have that luggage problem.
Mm-hmm. So you would have come home with a trunk, or?
Yes, I did have a trunk, and don't know how many cases, but I did have a trunk, which I had for years. But they're strong and sturdy. And I came home on the Begonia lines, you know, the Spanish lines they had at that time, that stopped in Spain, Venezuela, Trinidad, Curacao, and Jamaica.
Did you ever have anything else to do with the Rodney story or with Groundings?
Not really,
or?
you know, but I remembered it clearly. I remember. That's the one I wrote. That's the cover, definitely.
Did you read it?
You know, I didn't. I don't think I did. I was asking Richard for a copy. Do you have any?
I do. I'd have to search. I don't know.
Yeah.